Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the adventure thriller films from 2015, titled Into the Grizzly Maze. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens in an Alaskan forest, where two brothers, Beckett and Rowan, are walking through a place called the Grizzly Maze. Everything appears to be normal, until a massive grizzly bear appears next to Rowan, so Beckett shoots towards the bear. In the next scene, an adult Rowan awakens on a bus, realizing it was just a nightmare from his childhood. He is returning to his hometown in Alaska, where he hasn't been for a long time. A woman is waiting for him at the bus stop, and she gives him a ride to a motel. When they arrive, she hands Rowan a forest map, and pleads with him to find her husband, Johnny, so Rowan reassures her that he will find Johnny soon. The two then part ways, and Rowan checks into a motel room to prepare weapons for his journey. Elsewhere, outside a cabin in the forest, three poachers are seen cutting up bear paws. One of them turns out to be Johnny, who tells his friends that they are killing too many bears. The mothers with cubs are off limits and should be spared. However, his friends don't seem to care, so Johnny declares they will leave the cabin the next day. This leads to an argument. And then this happens. Seconds later, a huge roaring sound echoes through the forest, signaling that a bear is nearby. One poacher steps outside to confront the animal, but Johnny seizes the opportunity to slit his throat. When the other man tries to come out, a massive bear breaks into the cabin, and kills him. Elsewhere, Rowan is drinking in a pub when he's approached by an attractive girl. The two begin dancing and having fun, after which Rowan takes her to his motel. Once there, the woman suddenly asks for money, and Rowan is shocked to realize that she's a prostitute, and kicks her out of the room. Moments later, Rowan peeks outside and notices the woman being beaten by her pimp, who is mad that she didn't earn any money. He immediately goes outside to intervene, but this only results in a fight between the men, during which Rowan gains the upper hand and brutally injures the pimp. Soon after, some nearby cops arrive at the scene. An officer arrests Rowan, but he shockingly turns out to be his own brother, Beckett. Next, Beckett and another sheriff, Sully, scold the pimp for his actions, and send him away in an ambulance. Sully then takes the prostitute woman home, while Beckett takes care of Rowan. The brothers haven't seen each other in 7 years, and seem estranged. Rowan is angry with him for pointing a gun at him, but Beckett wonders why he's suddenly back home. It turns out Rowan had been in prison for 7 years for shooting a man, and was recently released. To add, Beckett was mad about his brother's actions, and thus never tried to contact him. Following this, Beckett takes Rowan home, and reveals that he is married to a woman named Michelle, who is a biologist. He explains that she is in the woods every day, dedicating her life to protecting animals. Beckett also reveals that he has stopped hunting, and they have collared almost 200 bears in the forest to track their movements. When asked why he's here, Rowan lies and says that he wants to go to the Grizzly Maze, and pay tribute to their father, as it was his favorite place. And so, Beckett offers Rowan to stay at the house for the next few days. The scene then cuts to the woods during a snowstorm, where two lumberjacks and a dog are seen. The men enter the forest, and begin chopping down trees with their chainsaws. Shortly after, the dog suddenly starts barking aggressively, prompting one of the workers to call his friend, who is busy nearby. When he doesn't respond, the man goes to check on him. But to his horror, all he finds is a hanging arm. And then suddenly, the next morning, Michelle is in the forest taking pictures of animals, but she is unaware that a bear is lurking behind her. Meanwhile, Beckett drops off Rowan at the forest entrance, and once again questions him about what he's up to. He suspects that Rowan is here for some ulterior motive, but the latter denies it and heads into the forest. He examines the map, and continues on his path, where he eventually discovers an abandoned car hidden in the trees. In another scene, Beckett and Sully arrive at the site where two lumberjacks were brutally murdered last night. They meet a medic named Kaylee, and after seeing the mutilated bodies, conclude that the perpetrator is undoubtedly a bear. The cops are then joined by a hunter named Douglas, who claims that this bear is not ordinary, and not collared as well. He comments that it is unusually dangerous, and offers to kill it, but Beckett declines the offer. Even Sully advises Beckett to focus on finding his wife and brother, rather than protecting the bear. But Beckett refuses again, and decides to head into the forest alone to find his family. Kaylee also decides to join him, and the two arm themselves with several bear sprays and guns. However, Beckett makes it clear that he's not going to kill any bears, and will only use the tranquilizer gun on them. Elsewhere in the forest, Michelle is setting snares in case any wild animals try to attack her. She suddenly hears growling sounds, and realizes a bear is nearby. But before she can react, the killer bear appears in front of her. Michelle attempts to flee, but she's accidentally caught in her own trap. The monstrous bear then tries to finish her off, but luckily, Rowan arrives with a gun, causing it to retreat in fear. Once the danger is averted, Rowan recognizes Michelle from the pictures, and introduces himself as Beckett's brother. But here we learn that she is actually deaf and mute, but can still read lips. Meanwhile, Sully arrives at Douglas' house, and asks him to kill the deadly bear. The hunter immediately agrees, and explains that this specific bear is not just hungry or territorial, it's pissed off for some reason. At this moment, Sully gets a call from his deputy, who has found Johnny's abandoned car in the forest. But then,
Sheriff?
Zoe?
the killer bear appears and brutally finishes her off, while the terrified Sully and Douglas hear the entire thing on the phone. Next, Sully immediately calls Beckett, and informs him about the deputy. He claims that the bear is nearby, and advises him and Kaylee to be careful. Meanwhile, Rowan helps Michelle out of the trap and assists her in walking. They soon arrive at a seemingly safe spot and decide to camp there for the night. Afterward, Sully goes to examine his deputy's murder site, and feels distraught about what happened to her. Another cop suggests they need to look for Johnny and the poachers, but Sully believes they are gone since it's been 12 days. Here, it turns out that Sully was the one who hired the poachers to kill bears illegally and cut down trees. The cop claims he needs to come clean about this, but Sully insists they focus on getting Beckett home safely for now. Meanwhile, Beckett and Kaylee arrive at the place where Michelle encountered the bear. They discover a piece of paper that Michelle used to communicate with Rowan, and assume they have met and are nearby. Elsewhere, Douglas also grabs his horse, and heads into the forest to search for the monstrous bear. Some time later, Kaylee and Beckett finally come across Michelle, and the husband and wife are relieved to see each other. Rowan, meanwhile, is seen standing atop a cliff, staring intently into the distance. Kaylee approaches him, and we learn that the place he's watching is the Grizzly maze, and it is so confusing that even the bears get lost in it. When Rowan asks why she's here, Kaylee responds that she came with Beckett. Later on, Rowan decides to leave the camp, which irritates his brother. Beckett asks him to return home with the girls in the morning, as he needs to find the killer bear. But this leads to an argument between them, which soon escalates into a physical fight. They only calm down when Kaylee fires a blank shot into the air. Rowan then explains that he came to the forest to find Johnny, the only person who stood up for him when needed. He reveals that Johnny disappeared in the forest while illegally hunting with 2 other poachers. And so, his wife asked Rowan for help, because if she had gone to Beckett, he would have arrested Johnny. Upon hearing this, Beckett is surprised, and apologizes to his brother. He then requests that Rowan stay the night and depart the next morning, to which the latter finally agrees. In the next scene, Michelle and Beckett examine satellite footage of the collared bears, and notice that they are all fleeing north, in fear of the larger bear. Worried about an attack, they decide to take turns keeping watch while the others sleep. When it's Rowan's turn, Kaylee approaches him again. It turns out they used to date, and Kaylee reveals how she once had her whole life planned around him. Rowan remains silent throughout much of the conversation, but after she goes to sleep, he sneaks into her tent, and lies down beside her. But then all of a sudden, The gigantic bear appears out of nowhere and attacks Kaylee. Beckett also awakens, and he shoots near the bear, forcing it to retreat. At one point, Beckett has a clear shot at the bear and could kill it, but he hesitates and ultimately lets it go. The next morning, the group continues their journey, and Rowan asks his brother why he let the animal go. But the latter dodges the question, and accuses Rowan of sleeping in the tent instead of keeping watch. Not long after, Michelle accidentally falls into a dead moose carcass. They also notice several other dead animals, and conclude they are in a kill zone. The group then decides to go through Grizzly Maze, which will lead to a river. Beckett calls Sully to inform him of their plan, and asks him to bring a boat to the river. And so, Sully doesn't waste any time, and heads toward the location in a boat. Later, the group hears gunfire in the distance. They then find Douglas near a collared bear, and Beckett gets angry at him for killing the poor animal. Douglas nonetheless takes the collar, and it turns out there's a camera attached to it that records everything. When they review the footage, they are shocked to discover that the small bear was attacked by the killer bear from the previous night. This finally changes Beckett's perception, and he realizes that he has no choice but to kill the bear. Next, the group parts ways with Douglas and continues on their journey. But then, while walking on a high cliff, the giant bear suddenly shows up and chases them again. This causes everyone to panic, and Kaylee ends up stumbling onto the rocks. She crashes into a large tree branch and a pointed spike pierces her leg completely. Kaylee screams in pain as the group rushes to help her. Fortunately, they manage to pull the branch from her leg. They then help her walk, and barely manage to escape before the bear catches up. After a while of walking, the group arrives at the poacher's cabin, where they discover the remains of several bears, and 2 dead men. They decide that staying here is not safe, and thus continue to walk. To their shock, they also come across Johnny's dead body in a tree. Rowan is the one most affected, as he was really close to him. At this point, Douglas reappears, and examines Johnny's lifeless body, concluding that he died from a gunshot wound. He reveals that he had warned Johnny not to work with the poachers, as they were dangerous people. He also reveals Sully was the one who hired these poachers, which leaves Beckett in shock. Following this, the group separates from Douglas again and continues walking. Kaylee is so weak and injured that they have to carry her all the way. They eventually decide to camp for the night, and resume their journey the next morning. Later, when Rowan is with Kaylee inside the tent, she asks if he really killed the man. He responds that at the time, his mom was terminally ill, but they were broke. Rowan thus approached Johnny, who helped him get a job of guiding some smugglers. Unfortunately, the deal went sideways, and they were caught by state troopers. Rowan nearly escaped, but while fleeing, he noticed one of the smugglers was about to kill an injured trooper. He then decided to do the right thing, and killed the smuggler to save the trooper. Unfortunately, this alerted the other troopers, and Rowan was immediately arrested. He couldn't prove his innocence since he was also an accomplice to the smugglers. Meanwhile, Beckett overhears everything from outside the tent, and feels bad for not trusting his brother. Rowan soon comes out, and asks Beckett to leave with Michelle. But the man refuses and says that they will always stay together now, no matter what. Sometime later, the group hears gunfire and rushes toward the sound. Beckett and Rowan notice Douglas' horse running away frantically, and then find his clothes, and glasses covered in blood. They realize the bear has defeated him, and is now coming after them. They return to the girls, and Rowan declares that he will mislead the bear by injuring his hand since it can smell the blood. He urges the others to go in the opposite direction to save their lives, even though Beckett and Kaylee do their best to stop him. In the end, Rowan and Kaylee tearfully share a kiss and say goodbye. After they part ways, Rowan cuts his hand and smears himself with blood. The bear soon catches his scent, and starts heading toward him. Rowan takes the opportunity to shoot it multiple times, but the animal dodges the attack. It relentlessly pursues him, and the two engage in a cat-and-mouse chase. During this, Rowan stabs the bear several times, but it doesn't appear to be injured and continues to chase him. This forces Rowan to run towards a nearby river, and makes a desperate leap, finally ending the pursuit. Moments later, Beckett and the girls scream for Rowan, but it draws the bear's attention. It starts chasing them, causing the group to scatter in panic, and Michelle gets separated. Even worse, the bear eventually catches up to her, and gets ready to finish her off. A panicked Beckett spots them and quickly fires multiple shots, but they all miss. Just when all hope seems to be lost, Douglas, who turns out to still be alive, appears with a half-disfigured face. He begins shooting at the bear and manages to hurt it a bit, but soon runs out of bullets. As a result, soon enough, Beckett and the girls reach the river, and finally find the boat. They also come across Sully, and an enraged Beckett scolds him for being a dirty cop who hired the poachers. Sully doesn't deny it and claims he did it all for money, as he had nothing to retire on. But their argument is interrupted by the arrival of the killer bear. Sully tries to shoot it, but the animal immediately leaps onto him, and starts ripping him apart. Meanwhile, Beckett gets into the boat with the girls, and Rowan also appears on the shore. The bear is still mauling Sully, so the brothers use this opportunity to grab some gasoline from the boat. They pour it all around the animal, and set it on fire, trapping the killer bear within the flames. The group then proceeds to leave. But unfortunately, it's not over yet. The bear charges through the flames, and capsizes the boat, causing everyone to fall off. After this, it goes after Kaylee and is about to attack her, so Rowan runs to distract it using his dagger, and the vicious animal turns its attention toward Rowan. Seeing this, Beckett tries to save his brother by striking the bear with an axe, but the animal throws him aside. It then returns to attack Rowan, but the man finally manages to stab the bear in the throat with his knife, until it collapses dead. With the threat finally eliminated, the injured group embraces each other and leaves the maze, and this is where the movie ends. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.